Good evening, families. I am Tracy Colson. I am the Director of School Improvement and Family Engagement at Whitehall City Schools. And this evening, we are going to give families some tips for getting ready for the summer. We're going to highlight some juvenile law, tips for a safe and healthy summer, social media law, and there'll be an opportunity for us to do Q&A. And at this time, I'm going to ask our special guest to introduce themselves, and I will start with Alexis Stevens. If you can introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Alexis Stevens. I am the Prevention Supervisor at Ohio Guidestone. And yeah, I hope you guys learned some interesting facts. I'm sure I will.
And our guest speaker this evening, we have Irene Ape. And so we're going to have Irene introduce herself as well for us.
Good evening. My name is Irene Knapp. I'm an assistant prosecuting attorney with Franklin County Juvenile Division. Just a little bit. I've been a prosecutor for my entire law career, so 24 years, and all of it has been devoted to juvenile and juvenile law. And I just am looking forward to presenting some information, some educational opportunities, and some healthy and safe reminders for you as we head off into the summer months.
Awesome. Now we're going to turn it over to you, Irene.
Okay. So as many people probably know, juvenile law, our jurisdiction is for any youth under the age of 18. So any crime that's committed when they're under the age of 18, we call them a delinquent child. And we have jurisdiction for any offenses occurring up to age 18. We do have full jurisdiction for any offenses until they're 21. So if they're adjudicated prior to 18, there are certain sanctions that the court can consider up until their age 21. The purpose of juvenile law continues to be a forefront here in Franklin County. It is to protect public interest and safety, hold offenders accountable, hold juveniles accountable, restoring the victims, rehabilitate offenders, and our primary goal is to provide the care, protection, and mental and physical development of children. And we focus very much on that just because our hope is that whatever interventions the court imposes, youth and families learn from that with the idea that they don't return to the system not only as juveniles, but also as adults. Because obviously as an adult, the sentencing guidelines are to protect the public from future crime by the offender, and they focus on punishment of the offender. And we'd like to do whatever we can in juvenile court to avoid that type of situation and lead them on a better path. In juvenile court, we prosecute every type of offense from unruly offenses, which is school truancies, all the way up to what they call unclassified felonies, which are usually our murder statutes. I know that that's an old stat that I have on my slide here. Last year alone, we prosecuted approximately 20,000 youth for various crimes, again, ranging from that unruly teen, a school truant teen, all the way up to those unspecified felonies. In juvenile court, we focus on a range of dispositions or sentences. The most penalizing one is the Department of Youth Services, which is often called our juvenile prison system. And those are for felonies only. Again, we can utilize residential treatment facilities if there's a specific treatment, mental health, or behavioral issue that needs to be dealt with. I'll be getting into some of the sex offender stuff that kids often are coming to court with. We call it sexting. And there are certain sanctions that can be imposed. We utilize, my slide says probation. In Franklin County, we now call it juvenile court enrichment services, house arrest, electronic monitoring, community service. Again, huge focus is counseling services, drug and alcohol treatment, restitution fines, and if there is a need to involve children's services or child protective services. Something that the parents and kids often don't realize is that a juvenile record can last well into their adulthood. 18 is not a magic age. There are actually steps you have to take to have a juvenile record sealed and expunged. And it's not an automatic thing. You have to apply to the court. There's a hearing. And for some offenses, they are not even eligible to be sealed and expunged. And the reason I bring this up is having a juvenile record can affect lots of opportunities for their future. Employment opportunities, college admissions, student loans can be significantly impacted with certain types of crimes. Drug crimes, OVIs are some of those, and housing applications can certainly be impacted. Certain cases are so serious that we do seek to bind them over to adult court. They are the most serious of the offenses, and I've listed them here: murder, attempted murder, rape, aggravated arson, firearms offenses. If you're committing these offenses with a firearm, that just enhances the likelihood that youth may be bound over to adult court and face adult sanctions as if they were 18 when that occurred. When I first started as a prosecutor, social media did not exist. Almost every type of case we have now that we prosecute, social media is being utilized as evidence. And it is available for law enforcement get subpoenas to social media companies, to Meta, to Instagram, to Snapchat, and they are getting cell phone providers, Verizon. They are getting a plethora of data from social media, from cell phones, from cell phone towers. If they feel that it is evidence of a crime or can prove a youth is in a certain location, the officers, law enforcement is getting that information to support the filing of delinquent charges or criminal charges against a youth. In almost every case now that we prosecute, social media is being utilized as evidence. And what I remind children and what parents should be aware of is what you think is deleted on the phone or what you think has been erased from a phone is likely there's still a digital imprint that can be found. Snapchat is one of those where the information is there and then it disappears, but it is actually still there. It's in a cloud, it's on their system, and law enforcement can certainly go and get it if they feel that there's a need to examine that information. Common offenses that are committed by youth. One of the ones I'm going to focus on a little bit for parents is bullying. Again, a lot of bullying used to be by word of mouth or passing notes or things of that nature. Nowadays, bullying threats are being issued on social media through text messages, through Instagram messages, Instagram Live. And again, that is evidence that somebody is being threatened or bullied that our law enforcement are going to get to prove. And so what we encourage parents especially is to be aware of your use being online, what they're doing online, who they're engaging with online, and being very aware of what messages your youth are putting out into the social media world. So if you are aware of what they're doing, you then have the first line opportunity to stop them from doing anything or crossing a line that once that's out, you can't take back. Because as we all know, social media is forever. Once images, threats, things of that nature are put out into the internet world, someone is screenshotting it. Someone could be videotaping it and saving it. And then that is that evidence that we can definitely use. So as parents, guardians, it's your opportunity to sort of be aware of what they're doing online, who they're communicating with, what they're communicating, what they're putting out into the internet world, so you can hopefully stop them from, again, crossing that line where they could end up in a situation where delinquent charges are filed. This is a case, social media impersonation. It is remarkable to me that youth nowadays are creating multiple Instagram accounts, multiple Facebook accounts. They are creating either two separate accounts, one that you are aware of as the parent, and one that they share just with their friends. That is not an uncommon thing. And we even are now having youth who are creating social media accounts in the name of somebody else with the intent to bully, harass, or put that person in a position to be bullied and harassed because they're posting as if they're that person, and they're impersonating that youth, and then that youth is then getting bullied and threatened, and it's because somebody is posting as if it's them. Those are things that are starting to happen now, because it is so easy to create fake accounts under fake names and using that for not a good purpose. One of the things that Franklin County tries to educate youth about is sexting. Sexting is quite simply taking, sending, possessing, or requesting, and that's just the asking of new photos to and from minors. Minors is defined as any youth under the age of 18. These offenses that I've listed here are the most common offenses that we prosecute in Franklin County. And as you can see, they are all felonies. Some of them are very serious felonies of the second degree. And this is really a heightened offense because with sexting, that is considered a sex offender registrant possibility. So if you are 16 or 17 years of age and you have a naked image of someone under the age of 18 on your phone, in your cloud, in an email, anything like that, by possessing it, by having it on that phone, on that device, you are likely going to be charged if it's located or found out pandering obscenity involving a minor, which is possessing obscene images of minors. And you can kind of see how those cases can become very problematic. The cases we see most often in Franklin County with regard to sexting is what is otherwise a very consensual relationship between a 16-year-old and the 15-year-old boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever, girlfriends, boyfriends. And they exchange consensually images or engage in video activities, purportedly just between the two of them. Unfortunately, those relationships can go sour, and now the other person has that image or that video, and either to bully, harass, intimidate, embarrass their ex-friend, they end up using that information against them, sending it to other people. This is where these often come from. And the penalties are very, very stiff because, one, it is a sexual-oriented offense. If you are 16 or 17, you are facing registration. And here I put that mandatory registration. So the court doesn't have the discretion. They have to register you as a juvenile sex offender. And that registration can last anywhere from as little as 10 years up to life, depending on the type of offense and the activity that you've engaged in. 14 and 15-year-olds, which is one of our highest populations that we're seeing sexting occurring, are discretionary registration. So it's possible, it's not mandatory, but it is possible. You should know that under age 13 and under are not eligible to be registering offenders. When I talk about registering, what I do mean is exactly like an adult's. They have to report to their local sheriff. They have to report where they're going to school, where they live, if they're employed, where they're working. The only thing that does not apply to juveniles is that they do not go on a website, and they aren't prohibited from living within a school zone, obviously, or prohibited from living within parks and or libraries. But it is a pretty restrictive, having to report every 90 days, every 6 months, or every year to your local sheriff, and notifying them of who you are, where you're living, who you're living with, where you're working, and on all of that information. So pretty stiff penalties for just possessing a otherwise consensual activity between you and someone else under the age of 18. And then it gets found out because someone sees it or it's being used for an improper purpose to threaten, bully, and harass. These are the most common cases that we are really seeing still on the rise since COVID. We had a huge drop of these cases while COVID happened because schools were closed, schools were shut down, and there was very little interaction amongst the youth. We have seen a spike again with these sexting offenses since schools have been back after COVID, and it just continues to climb, at least here in Franklin County. This is something I advise youth. What should you do if you receive a nude photo? We encourage youth to notify a parent, teacher, administrator, someone adult that they trust, so that it can be documented and reported. They are allowed to immediately delete the photo. And what I do encourage parents to be aware, if your child has received an image and you become aware of that image on their phone, I can assure you more than likely that image has been sent to other youth, friends of your child, other kids at school. It has been distributed to more than one person. It is rare that we just have one person having that image. And even though if you delete it, you've done the right thing by getting rid of it, but reporting it is most important, because what typically happens is once it does get reported, law enforcement then begins to look for the trail of where it's sent, who sent it. And there is, again, that digital imprint. They start following it back to the originating source. How many times was it received? How many times was it further sent out? I call it a spider web because it starts with one point and then it continues to expand. And each person along that spider web could, if they did the wrong thing with that image, save it, send it, forward it, upload it onto the cloud. Each person along that spider web could be looking at those sanctions that I described and being charged if they didn't do the right thing. And law enforcement is looking for those youth, those families who are doing the right thing with it, deleting it and reporting it so that we can put a stop to it. Because once that image is out in the internet world, you cannot get it back. Once someone hits send, once someone forwards it, you can't just delete it anymore. It stays there forever and can be used. These are just some common offenses. Felonious assault. We do tend to see these on the rise in the summer months. Again, people just out having a good time and things can escalate very quickly. Aggravated riots is also something that we see. Domestic violence among youth is, again, an offense that is somewhat on the rise. Family violence, kids, youth who don't have good coping skills are getting caught up in the assault, domestic violence. And that's where counseling and education and trying to give them an opportunity to express themselves in a healthy environment. Parents play a key role in that. If they have the ability to help their child express themselves in a safe, supportive environment, they are not going to be facing these types of charges routinely. Getting them that help, helping them develop great coping skills, and parents are kind of leading the forefront on that. And that, there's a lot of resources in Franklin County about helping the parents, educating the parents on how to parent their teen who may have a violent tendency, how to help them through that so that they're not ending up in the system with domestic violence or assault charges. If parents aren't aware, this is a common offense that we, again, vaping. It is illegal for youth to be in possession of or purchase vapes, cigarettes, nicotine of any kind. In Franklin County, what we are seeing with vape cartridges is, unfortunately, that they are often laced with other drugs. Most recently, the drug of choice that people who are selling these illegally to youth, it's fentanyl. And fentanyl is deadly. And youth think they're smoking a marijuana joint. Youth think they're vaping just some nicotine. And what they don't realize is that they've purchased and gotten that substance illegally, and the person who's giving it to them likely has laced it with something else. And that is, again, something that we are seeing in Franklin County. And youth are dying because of it, because they are not supposed to be in possession of it. And this vaping is a very popular thing with the flavored vapes and things of that nature. And again, they're often being laced with other things that are illegal. Other common offenses, robbery and theft. I won't go into too much of those. Receiving stolen property is, again, a crime that continues to be in the media and on the rise here in Franklin County and over the state of Ohio. Our most common offenses are receiving stolen property of automobiles. And what I would encourage parents to know is that even though your youth could be a passenger in the car, if they know or have reason to know that the car is stolen, they can be charged with that felony for receiving stolen property. I educate youth. What are you looking for when you are going to get in the car? First and foremost, the person who's driving the car, are they someone who's old enough to have purchased a vehicle, have insurance, have a driver's license? If the answer to those questions are no, they should not be getting into the car with that youth. Other signs the car is likely stolen: broken windows, peeled columns, and oftentimes the car is quite destroyed inside because it's been passed around to other youth. I educate youth, if you see those signs, if the person you know you're getting in the car with isn't old enough to drive, don't get in the car. If there's a broken window, don't get in the car. And especially if you see a peeled column and there's no key or key fob, do not get in the car. You are facing equal felonies just for doing so. This is, again, a continued crime on the rise. Franklin County, the prosecutor's office with our Franklin County Court has and is developing a diversion program for first-time offenders for receiving stolen property. Again, it's to educate them about the level of offense, holding them accountable, but not facing the delinquent penalties that can come with an adjudication or a conviction. And we're trying to educate them as the dangers of being in stolen cars, because unfortunately, joyriding in stolen cars often leads to accidents and injuries that can be life-threatening. Inducing panic and making false alarms. I will just again say this used to be the pulling of the fire alarm at school, and now it really is what youth are putting out on social media, threatening school, threatening to blow up the school, threatening to bring guns to the school or injure someone at school. Even in the summer months, those types of threats are taken very seriously, investigated very a lot, and that social media presence, again, is the evidence, and these types of offenses are taken serious and prosecuted quite vigorously. Guns, it's, again, a crime in the media that is always on the rise. We're always aware firearms offenses are taken very seriously, are held accountable at very strictly. Our courts are trying their best to protect the public. Not only stolen cars risk community safety, but firearms are probably one of the largest risks to community safety. A youth should never be in possession of a firearm. And unfortunately, lots of youth play around with guns, have guns, access to guns. And as parents, knowing that your youth is educated about not possessing the firearm, or if someone presents them with one, not touching it, what they think is not a loaded weapon could very quickly turn into what is a loaded weapon, and death could come to whoever is on the other end of that gun. And it's a very unfortunate situation when someone who doesn't think it's a problem, and it is. I touched a little bit on drugs. just for the parents, I'm sure truancy continues to be an issue. Parents can be charged with what we call failure to send their youth to school. It is required to be charged with any youth who is charged with a school truancy. So that's likely what you're hearing from the school is if we can't get the truancy issue under control and they have to turn to the court and file truancy charges, there is always going to be a charge against the parent. What we are looking for as prosecutors is what has the parent done to try to ensure their youth's attendance and participation at school, meeting with the school social workers, attending the truancy intervention plans, and trying to address that. Curfew in the summers, it doesn't matter. If you're under 13, it's 1 hour after sunset until 4:30 a.m. They are to be within the home, and midnight until 4:30 for ages 14 to 17. There is no summer curfew. It is just that curfew. I will say human trafficking is, again, a situation here in Franklin County and through the entire state of Ohio. And it continues to be a focus of many resources in the community. In Ohio alone, more than 3,000 minors are at risk for being sex trafficked. And more than 1,000 are actually trafficked during the course of the year. A lot of this has to do with our freeway system, 71, 70, and the trucking routes that come through Ohio is a big part of why Ohio is ranked fairly high in human trafficking of youth. This is a 2016 statistic, but you can see even in 2016, Ohio was listed as fourth in, and I know that has pretty much stayed consistent. We haven't gone down, we've just gone up, but I think all the states are going up with regard to human trafficking concerns. This is another offense called sextortion that is something that has recently been a little bit more in the news. Basically, your youth, when they are online, are friending people who they think they know or sounds like they know. And these people are sexual predators, likely not even in the United States. And they are befriending the youth and developing an online relationship that is very quickly developed through social media and texting. And eventually these individuals get sexual images, videos, they get sexual messages, conversations. And once they obtain that information from the youth, they then use it to exploit them for either more images, more videos, and more recently, the cases that we've seen in the media, it's about money, getting money. There are youth in Ohio. I know there's a couple of parents who are actively engaged in putting the message out about sextortion because their youth was caught up in a sextortion ring. There's a case in Michigan right now where a youth ended up taking his life because he didn't know how to deal with being extorted because he sent a message and an image to someone who he thought was a female, teenage female, very age appropriate, but it turned out these individuals were adult men in Nigeria. And because he got caught up in that sextortion situation, he didn't know how to get out of it and he couldn't keep paying them and they wouldn't stop. So he ended up, unfortunately, taking his own life. And again, this is a federal offense, but we see it happening at a local level through sexting because local youth will obtain those images, those videos, and they want more of the same. They may try to get money from a classmate, things of that nature. So the way to stop it is to never let those images, videos, messages get out But if they are out, again, having a safe person to turn to and report it. The statistics, again, a little outdated, but again, this is an offense that is on the rise. And I've often been asked if, how often are youth engaging in sexting? And it is quite prevalent. Some of the studies are teens reported having sent naked pictures of themselves. 27.8% teen boys have reported doing that, and 27.5% teen girls have reported sending naked pictures of themselves to somebody else. Girls are most common being asked to send those types of images. 68.5% teen girls report being asked to do that, to create that image, take that image of themselves, and 42% of boys are being asked to send a naked picture of themselves. And again, teens reported having asked someone to send. Again, boys are more frequently the requesters of girls. But again, those numbers, I think, are continuing to rise. Studies have said, why are kids sexting? It is a way to overcome shyness, a lack of confidence, testing the waters, what they consider safe sex or sexual exploration, sexual bragging, sexual identity, body image, and then, the intent to harm. There are some studies that talk about sexting being a kind of a rite of passage, a development, a way to healthy exploration of their own sexuality. And, what we're seeing is, yes, that might be true, but the problem is that there is a real evil side to it that they can't control, which is once those images are sent or shared, they can't take that back. And what might have been an otherwise healthy exploration turns into an offense such as sexting and those felonies that we talked about. Teen relationship violence, again, this is something that we see, even hit, slapped, pushed by a partner. Again, this is an opportunity for the parents to be aware of who your youth is associating with, who that boyfriend and girlfriend with. Are they someone who builds the person up and not takes them down? So being aware of the relationship your teen is in. Is that person respectful? Are they willing to meet you, come to your house? Is your teen dressing and acting in a way that is respectful of themselves? And if they are, then hopefully they're going to be putting out that respectful relationship, and that's going to be healthy. But unfortunately, oftentimes it is an unhealthy relationship, and there are lots of resources out there for teens. I did hit on the bullying. If you ever, or for our office, we do take private complaints. If there is a concern, law enforcement may refer you to our office to file a complaint against another youth, and I've provided that information here. We have a phone number, and our address is 399 South Front Street. This is my contact information, includes my direct phone number and my email, and you are more than welcome to email me or call me at any time. I'm considered one of the senior prosecutors in juvenile, so I've been there a long time, and I answer questions all the time for anyone who has any concerns or questions that they want to discuss with the prosecutor's office. I guess I would open it up to any questions if anyone has any.
Thank you, Irene. Oh my gosh, this was awesome, very informative. I learned a lot. I'm excited that we recorded this to where we can post this on our website and our YouTube channel. This was a lot of great information. You covered a lot of topics that we encounter in the school system. I'm going to see if anyone has any questions. So I'm going to pause, because if you do, you could just come off of mute and ask the question.
I have a question. So, as far as the sexting, like majority of the kids, they don't have their own phone bill, like it's under their parents. So, could the parents also be charged as well?
Yes, parents can be charged, and they get charged differently, obviously, because they're adults. They can be charged with possession of child pornography, facing adult sanctions, financial crimes or financial penalties. But most often, being in possession of child pornography gets a lot of media attention. People lose their jobs for that. And it's really as simple as this. So you are paying for your child's cell phone. You are paying their iCloud account. And if your youth is saving images, videos, even just text messages, if that backup is being saved into the cloud, because you are paying for that account. That is your on that cell phone is on your account. That and if there is a reason, again, for law enforcement to go looking, and that's usually there's something that triggers law enforcement to go looking. And when they go looking hard, and they get subpoenas, and they get all this information. And if you, as the cloud holder, the account holder, have these types of images, maybe more often than not, it's more than one image, and it's multiple youth, and it's multiple people, and they find that on your cloud, even though it's your youth, it's your cloud because you're paying for it, it's your phone, things of that nature. You could be facing some significant penalties for being in possession of child pornography. Again, pictures of this nature under the age of 18. So it could be a 16, 17-year-old. There are some exceptions, but they are very limited, and the onus is on the person who's charged to say that it was for a medical purpose, or that it was for an artistic purpose, which are the two big exceptions. But that hurdle is very high to get over. And you need to be aware of what your youth is not only doing on the phone, but saving on their phone and saving into the cloud, because you are presumed to know what's on there since you're the one paying for it.
And then I have another question. So, where do parents start, like with monitoring the phone? Like, can they just take their child? I mean, they can just take the child's phone, like give them your phone and like look through it, but is there like any recommendations that you have? Because some of them might be like, the kids might be like, oh, I don't want you to take my phone, da 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 da, and start a whole argument and stuff like that. So, what are some ways parents can start monitoring?
So I think you can just start with, all these phones have almost an automatic backup system, and you being able to access that backup on the cloud. Um, if you're paying for the phone bill, looking at what they're doing on the phone, you can get that breakdown of social media, things of that nature. Most parents, take the phone as a consequence. I think I had sent Ms. Colson um, I think it's a template or like an agreement, a contract that you can start working with your youth. Starting with them very young is really key to understanding your youth, understanding I'm giving you the privilege of having a cell phone. I'm paying for your cell phone, but in exchange for that privilege, I need to know what you're doing with it, because consequences not only for you, but for me, and having that very open, honest dialogue. But I think it's really just the parent looking at the phone. I didn't get to those slides, but, parents are, kids are very, I don't even know. They're vault apps that kids are very savvy with. I haven't seen a lot of vault apps, but they look like Facebook. They look like Instagram, and in fact, they're not. Those are that's the face of the app on their phone. And you don't realize what it is until you go and click on the app and make sure that it opens up and it's Instagram, or make sure it opens up and it is what it says it is, because a lot of these youth are often using these apps that have kind of a backdoor into other things, and hiding that information on the phone. And it's really the parent needing to just be very aware and involved. And starting early is better than starting too late.
I don't have any more questions.
Awesome. So thank you again, Irene. We will post the handouts on our website for the parents as well. This was a very informative session. And hopefully, parents, it is going to prepare you for the summer months, but then also for the upcoming school year. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to Irene. She has provided her information. And please do not hesitate to reach out to us here at Whitehall City Schools, because we want to make sure that we are equipping parents with the necessary tools to make sure that their child is successful in life in general. And thank you, and have a great evening. And whenever you watch this, whether it's in the morning, afternoon, we hope that this information will be very informative for you.